शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। अगजानन पद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्जसम्भावितल्लाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करस्रजं வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹர ஹரோஹரா. லோகவீர்யம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதி ஹிருதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யகம். சுவாமியே சரணமையப்பா. வாகர்த்தாபிவ சம்பிரக்தௌ வாகர்த்த பிரதிபத்தஹே जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। श्री पार्वती परमेश्वराभ्यां नमः। कोमलं कूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्ख कौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन् हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरणभ्यर्थितानपि अर्थान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी ध्रुममभिलषति व्यर्थमार्तिव्रजोऽयम्। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशी विभूषितकरात् नवनीरदाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलादरोष्टात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने। കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടുമീറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചന നിന്നോടായി. ഇതിനു മഞ്ഞനെ കുമ്പിടേണ്ടാത്തോരു രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കെന്നായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Good morning, everyone. Thanks to all of you for joining after a busy week and probably a late night for most of you. So I didn't want to skip 2 classes in a row, right? So then we'll kind of lose the momentum. Okay, so let's just do a quick review of 5. Jyoti ji, can you do 1/2? Jyoti Chandran, you're on. You can do the 1/2 of it. And let me see. Lakshmi Ramesh, Lakshmi Kamala ji, can you do 1/2? Go ahead, Jyoti, you can start.
Okay, yeah. Dasakam 5, Virat Purushotpatti Pragara Varnanam. Vyakta Vyaktamidam na kinchidabhavat prakrita prachaye mayayam gunasamya ruddha vikridau tvayagadayam layam no mrityuscha tadamridam cha samabhut nanonnaratre sthidihi tatraikastvamashishyatha kila parananda prakashatmana कालकर्म गुणाश्च जीवनिवहाः विश्वं च कार्यं विभो चिल्लीलारदिमेयुषि त्वयि तदा निर्लीनतामाययुः तेषां नैव वदन्त्य सत्त्वमयि भोः शक्त्यात्मना तिष्ठताम् नो चेत् किं गगनप्रसूनसदृशां भूयो भवेत् सम्भवः एवं च द्विपरार्थकालविकदा वीक्षासु सृक्षात्मिकां बिभ्राणे त्वयि चुक्षुभे त्रिभुवनी भावाय माया स्वयं मायादः खलु कालशक्तिरखिला दृष्टं स्वभावोऽपि च प्रादुर्भूय गुणान् विकास्य विदधुः तस्या सहायक्रियां माया सन्निहितो प्रविष्ट वपुषा साक्षीति गीतो भवान् भेदैस्तां प्रतिबिम्बदो विविशिवान् जीवोऽपि नैवापरः कालादिप्रतिबोधिताध भवदा संजोदिताज स्वयं माया सा खलु बुद्धितत्त्वमसृजद्योऽसौ महानुच्यते तत्रासौ त्रिगुणात्मकोऽपि च महान् सत्त्वप्रधानः स्वयं जीवेऽस्मिन् खलु निर्विकल्पमहमित्युद्बोधनिष्पादकः चक्रेऽस्मिन् सविकल्पबोधकमहन् तत्त्वं महान् खल्वसौ सम्पुष्टं त्रिगुणैस्तमोदि बहुलं विष्णो भवत्प्रेरणात्.
Lakshmi ji, you want to do it?
Yeah. Now, hearing, right?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't practice. Okay. So, Hanchat, yeah, that is the one from starting.
Yeah, from there, yes.
So, Hanchat Triguna Kramat Trividatam Asadhya Vaikariko Bhuyastayja Satamasaviti Bhavan Adhyena Sattvatmanam Devanindriyamanino Kruta Dishavat Kapashyashvinom Vahnindra-Achyuta-mitrakan Vidu-Vidhi Shri-Rudra-Sharirakan Bhuman-manasa-buddhyaham-krutti-milachittakya-vrityanvitam Tacchantakaranam vibho-tava-bhalat Sattvaamsha-eva-srujat Jatastai-jasato dashendriya-ghanaha Tattamasam-shat-punaham तन्मात्रं न बसो मरुत्पुरपते शब्दो जनित्वद्बलात् शब्दाद्व्योम ततः ससर्जित विभो स्पर्शं ततो मारुतं तस्माद्रूपमतो महोतचरसं तोयं च गन्धं महीम् एवं माधव पूर्वकलनात् आद्याद्य धर्मान्वितम् भूतग्राममिमं त्वमेव भगवन् प्राकाशयस्तामसात् एते भूतगणास्तदेन्द्रियगणाः देवाश्च जाता पृथङ्नोषेकुर्भुवनाण्ड निर्मितिविधौ देवैरमीभिस्तदा त्वं नानाविधसूक्तिभिर्नुतगुणः तत्त्वान्यमुन्याविशन् चेष्टाशक्तिमुदीर्यतानि घटयन् हैरण्यमण्डं व्यधाः.
That last line after Ghatayan there is a pause, okay? Tani Ghatayan.
Oh, Ghatayan. चेष्टाशक्तिमुदीर्यतानि घटयन् हैरण्यमण्डं व्यधाः. अण्डं तत्कलु पूर्वसृष्टसलिले तिष्ठत् सहस्रं समाः निर्भिन्दन् न कृताश्च चतुर्दश जगद्रूपं विराडः वयम् Virada. There is a comma, right?
No, it's continuous. There's no comma there. You said it correct. Virada Koyam.
Sahasraihi Karapadamurdhanivahaihi Nishesha Jivatmako Nirbhatosi Marutpuradhipa Mantraya Swasarva Mayat.
The third line, that Sahasraihi, you said, right? So you don't have to say that Visarga, that H or Ich becomes the joining letter. So Sahasraih Karapada Murdhanivahaihi. Okay.
No Hakara, no he.
Yeah, because we are not pausing there, right? So you don't have to say that. You put that, like I said, like the closest English alphabet is H. So Sahasraih Karapada Murdhanivahaihi. Okay. Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Yeah, so let's continue with 6. I think we finished up to stanza 7. So let me see who I had today. Lakshmi Edavalikaru, you can be a student, and Nalini, you can be a student. Yeah, so I think we finished 7, so we'll start with 8. Shronisthalam mrigaganah padayornakaste hastyushtra saindavamukaha gamanam tu kalaha vipradi varna bhavanam vadanabjabahu charuru yugma charanam karunam bhudete. So just to kind of recollect, right? So we were describing the Virat form of the Lord, which is the 14 worlds, the 14 layers of the world which actually got formed. And now you imagine that form of the Lord from top to bottom or bottom to top, however, which actually has all the 14 worlds and everything embedded in it. So we already saw where Atala, Sutala, Mahatala, Patala, Talatala, all of that was there. We saw where, all the Maharloka, Janaloka, Satyaloka, all of that was also there. Now we're going through a few other descriptions, right? So here it says, the animal world, everything related to the animal is your lower back. And like I said, some of these the inner meanings and why, I don't have a context of it. And then it says, the 4 varnas, which is the Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, each of that comes from one portion. And this is, like I said, for those of you who know Purusha Suktam, this directly comes from Purusha Suktam. Even Purusha Suktam says, Brahmano osya mukamasit bahu rajanyakritaha mukam. From your face, the Brahmins originated, because the Brahmins have to chant. So it comes from your face. And then bahu rajanyakritaha, from your arms, the Kshatriyas come, because it is strength, it's valor, right? And then Uru Tadasya Tad Vaishyaha. So, and the Vaishyas come from your feet, and the Shudras from your thighs, and the Shudras come from your feet, which is the same thing here also they're saying, but essentially it's same thing as the Vedas as well. So, Shroni Sthalam Mrigaganaha is there, put a F to join, Mrigaganah, Padayor Nakaste, and then put a plus, Hastyushtra Saindhava Mukhaha. Add a visarga there, you will not have it. Add a visarga mukhaha and comma. Gamanam tu kalaha. Vipradi varna bhavanam vadanabja bahu, put a plus. Charuru yugma charanam karunam bhudete. Shroni stalam mrigaganah padayornakaste hastyushtra saindhava mukhaha gamanam tu kalaha. Vipradi varna bhavanam vadanabjabahu charuru yugma charanam karunam bhudete.
Okay. Shroni sthalam mrugagana padayornakaste hastyastru saindhava mukhaha gamanam tu kalaha vipradi varna bhavanam vadanam bujahu charuru yugma charanam karunam bhudete.
And just 2 small corrections. Second line, hastyushtra.
Okay.
Okay, and then the third line, vadanab, ib sound, vadanab jabahu.
Yeah. Okay.
So Rajesh, one quick question. The second line, hastyushtarain kodutharka appdi illaya?
Illa, hastyushtra.
Stra. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Shroni sthalam mrugaganaha padayornakaste hastyushtra saindhava mukhaha gamanam tu kalaha vipradi varna bhavanam vadanabja bahu चारूरुयुग्मचरणं करुणाम्बुधे ते.
And then the second line after Saindava Mukaha, we added a comma, okay?
Okay.
Second, okay.
श्रोणीस्थलं मृगगणाः पदयोर्नखास्ते हस्तुष्ट्रसैन्धवमुखाः गमनं तु कालः विप्रादिवर्णभवनं वदनाब्जबाहु चारूरुयुग्मचरणं करुणाम्बुधे ते श्रोणीस्थलं मृगगणाः पदयोर्नखास्ते हस्तुष्ट्रसैन्धवमुखाः गमनं तु कालः विप्रादिवर्णभवनं वदनाब्जबाहु चारूरुयुग्मचरणं करुणाम्बुधे ते.
That's a line. Samsara chakramai chakradhara kriyaste Viryam mahasuraghanosti kulani shailaha Nadya sarit samudayastaravaschya Roma Jiyadidam vapura nirvachani yamisha. Chakradhara, the one who holds the discus. The activity that you do, essentially the whole wheel of samsara, which is like the birth, the death, and everything you go through, is kind of your regular activity. You are the one who actually controls all of that. And then it says, your bones are like the mountains, and the blood streams inside your body are the rivers which actually flows everywhere else. Your hair is Roma Tharavaha. Your Romam is the hair, is the trees which are actually there everywhere. And says, may this, this entire form of you, because he's now completing the Virat form, may this entire form of you always be remembering in my mind whenever I want. Because that, like we said, and we'll see in the next stanza why that is important. He says, the request prayer here is, may I always remember this form of yours, right? Whenever I want to think of it. Samsara chakramai chakradhara kriyaste, Viryam mahasura ganosti kulani shailaha Nadyas sarit samudayas taravascha Roma, Jiyadidam vapura nirvachaniyam isha. So this you cannot quite break it. So you have to say the whole word together. Vapura nirvachaniyam isha. Samsara chakramai chakradhara kriyaste Viryam mahasuraghanosti kulani shailaha Nadya sarit samudayastaravaschya Roma Jiyadidam vapura nirvachaniyamisha.
संसारचक्रमयि चक्रधरक्रियास्ते वीर्यं महासुरगणोऽस्ति कुलानि शैलाः नाट्यः सरितसमुदयस्तरवश्च रोम जीयात् इदं वपुरि निर्वचनीयमीश संसारचक्रमयि चक्रधरक्रियास्ते वीर्यं महासुरगणोऽस्ति कुलानि शैलाः नाट्यः सरितसमुदयस्तरवश्च रोम जीयात् इदं वपुरि निर्वचनीयमीश.
So actually two small corrections there. Third line is sarit, just a it sound. Nadya sarit. Okay, I think you're saying a full tha there. Okay, and the fourth line is vapura. You're saying vapuri.
Okay.
So can you just say the last line, Jiyadidam?
Sure. Jiyat idam vapura nirvachaniyam isha.
Yeah, that's it.
संसारचक्रमयि चक्रधरक्रियास्ते वीर्यं महासुरगणोऽस्ति कुलानि शैलाः नाड्यः सरित्समुदयस्तरवश्च रोम जीयादिदं वपुरनिर्वचनीयमीश संसारचक्रमयि चक्रधरक्रियास्ते वीर्यं महासुरगणोऽस्ति कुलानि शैलाः नाड्यत् सरित्समुदयस्तरवश्च रोम जीयादिदं वपुरनिर्वचनीयमीश.
That's it. Idrak jaganmaya vapustava karma bhajam karmavasana samaye smaraniyamahuhu tasyantaratma vapushe vimalatmanete vatalayadhipa namostu nirundi rogan. Says this Virat form of the Lord, which is the form of the Lord with all the 14 worlds embedded and everything inside the 14 worlds embedded. He says there are two times when you have to always say this, which is very similar to Purusha Suktam. Right? One is, he says, any karma, any puja you do at your home, right? You will generally see that the priest always chants the Purusha Suktam at the end of it, right? Which is kind of describing the form of the Lord, which is essentially what this is, right? He says that is one time. The second time is when your karmas come to an end, which is at the time of your death. So, for the time of your death, like we said, it's most important. They say is that, like I said this last time, I don't remember 2 weeks back, was that it doesn't matter which margam you follow, right? Which path of yoga you follow. He says the most important thing is Ante Narayana Smriti. At the time of your death, are you able to think of Narayana? That's the basic question. Now, how you build towards that is what everything that you're doing leads up to, right? Because it's not easy, because even if you just close your eyes for 1 minute, you can think of 1,000 problems that you have in your life, right? So at the time of death, you'll have even more things to worry about, your family and everything. So why would you think of that? Because it has to very implicitly come, not an explicit thought, right? That has to be there. So he says the only way to do that is to keep on cultivating it over a period of time. He says at the end, and this is what Shukra Brahman tells Parikshit also, at the end, don't worry. You just build up to it over the next 7 days, because on the seventh day, when you close your eyes, you should be able to see the Virat form of the Lord. Now, you may be wondering, how do I know which Atala is which portion of the Lord, Vitala is which? Don't worry about all of that. Just imagine any form of the Lord you want and ensure that all worlds, everything you know is inside that Lord. As long as you imagine that form of the Lord, that's what Bhattacharya is also saying here. Remember the Lord at the time, at the very end, right? That's the most important one. And this is the form of the Lord to think about, right? And of course, in the very end, it says, Vatalayadipa, oh Guru Ayappa, please eradicate all the ailments I have. Idrit Jaganmaya Vapus Tava Karma Bhajam, Karmavasana Samaye Smaraniya Mahuhu Tasyantaratma Vapushe Vimalatmanete, Vatalayadhipa Namostu Nirundi Rogan. Idrak Jaganmaya Vapostava Karma Bhajam Karma Vasana Samaye Smaraniya Mahuhu Tasyantaratma Vapushe Vimalatmanete Vatalayadhipa Namostu Nirundi Rogan.
Idrik Jaganmaya Vapusatava.
Vapus.
Idrik
Yeah.
Vapustava. Yeah. Idrik Jaganmaya Vapustava Karma Bhajam Karmavasan Samaye Smaraniya Mahuhu Tasyantaratma Vapushe Vimalatmanete Vatalayadhipa Namostu Nirundi Rogan. Idrik Jaganmaya Vapus Tava Karma Bhajam Karma Vasan Samaye Smaraniya Mahuhu Tasyantaratma Vapushe Vimalatmanete Vatalayadhipa Namostu Nirundi Rogan.
ईदृग्जगन्मय वपुस्तव कर्म भाजां कर्मावसान समये स्मरणीयमाहुः तस्यान्तरात्मवपुषे विमलात्मनीति वातालयाधिपनमोऽस्तु निरुन्धिरोगान् ईदृग्जगन्मय वपुस्तव कर्म भाजां कर्मावसान समये स्मरणीयमाहुः तस्यान्तरात्मवपुषे विमलात्मनीति वातालयाधिपनमोऽस्तु निरुन्धिरोगान्.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Jump to Dasakam 7. So like I was telling you earlier, the first 10 in the section, right? Like we saw how 1 and 2 were a little big, 5 was a little bit of a tough chapter, 7 is a little bit of a tough chapter. But once you get through 7, then up to 24, it's all small Dashakams. It's all relatively easy Dashakams. So 7, there are a lot of things which are happening in here. So if I read what is in my book, it has 5, 6 things. Hiranya Garbhotpatti Varnam, Hiranya Garbha Patascharana Varnanam, Vaikunta Swarupa Varnam. Multiple things are there. But the net essence of it is the origin of Brahma and what happens. That's essentially what this chapter is, right? So if you kind of recollect everything we saw, from 5 and 6. So 5 was essentially where we saw how the entire cosmos got created from Purusha, which is the Supreme Lord who is there, and then the Prakriti, which was the unmanifested and unstructured, everything that was there. And then we saw how Mahat and all of these things came. Then the Brahmandam came. Then we broke the Brahmandam into like the 14 worlds, right? 14 layers, and then the description of the Lord. That's where we kind of stopped. Now, what happens after that in terms of the creation is what this is. This 7 is telling. 7, 8, and 9 will kind of talk through that, right? So stanza 1. Evam deva चतुर्दशात्मक जगत् रूपेण जातः पुनः तस्योर्ध्वं खलु सत्यलोकनिलये जातोऽसि धाता स्वयं यं शंसन्ति हिरण्यगर्भमखिल त्रैलोक्यजीवात्मकं यो भूत्स्फीतरजो विकार विकसन्नानासि सृक्षारसः. And these things, some of these things will stretch over 7 and 8. Okay, so eventually when you learn 7 and 8, then all of these things will come together. So he says, kind of recaps, Bhattacharya is recapping this by saying, this way, O Lord, you who then entered into the Brahmandam, which was the Hiranyandam, which we said was the golden egg that was there, you created the 14 worlds. And now, once these 14 worlds are there, what happens next, right? There has to be someone who has to then carry on the task. So there are, like we're studying, there are 3 types of Vishnus who are there. So one is the main, the first Purusha, who is the material side of it, who is responsible for all the universes which are going. And then into each of those universes, into each of that Andam, one form of Vishnu comes in. And that Vishnu is called as the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. So that Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is who is lying at the bottom of all the 14 worlds, and from whose Nabhi Brahman everybody comes. And some of it is going to come later. So that is one Vishnu. Okay. Now, from that Vishnu is what this Brahma is coming. So it is you yourself have to take a portion of your energy and then become Brahma. Because how else is Brahma going to come? Because there's nothing right now, right? Is you yourself becomes the Hiranyagarbha. Now, Hiranyagarbha, depending on which text you see, might have different meanings, because Hiranyagarbha at the end of the day is the what do you call, like a amalgamation of all the souls, right? Now, you could say all the souls come from, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. So that Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is the Hiranyagarbha. That's how it is in some scriptures. But here in the context of how it is written is Brahma is the one who's carrying on that task. He's the one who's going to do that work. So he's referred to as Hiranyagarbha here. And I'll clarify, I'm referring to Brahma as a he. It's not a he. It's not a he, it's not a she. Because the genders itself are going to come much later. None of the people we are going to see in the beginning are a he or a she. It is just, they are just energy which has a form. Okay. So there's no gender here. But to refer it, I'll say it as he here. So anyway, so you then become as Brahma in Satyaloka, which is the topmost of the 14 worlds under which you saw. And now this Brahma, if this Brahma is also like that Purusha, who has absolutely no desire, absolutely no intent, then nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to progress further. So what happens is this Brahma then got an increase in Rajo Gunam, which is a desire. So this Brahma has a desire to create. Because unless this Brahma has a desire to create, Brahma is not going to create. So there's an upsurge of Rajo Guna. That's why it says, Yopuspita Rajo Vikara, because there's an upsurge of Rajo Guna in this Brahma. So now suddenly this Brahma wants to create, because there's absolutely nothing. There are just the worlds. There are no other souls. There are no other beings in any of the worlds. So this Brahma now has a desire to create. So that's how the process starts. So evam deva, chatur dashatmaka jagat rupena jataha. You can put the F to join. Jatah punaha. So put a visarga and comma at the end of that line. Next line, if you have a is at the beginning of the line, that will go away. Tasyordhvam khalu satya loka nilaye, comma, jatosi dhata swayam. Evam deva chatur-dashatmaka jagat rupena jatah punaha tasyordhvam khalu satya loka nilaye jatosi dhata swayam.
I have a
Yeah.
question. Sorry, I have a question. In my book, is it if there's a sandhi in the first line, Jagat Drupena. So we should separate it as Jagat and Rupena.
No, you can say Jagat Drupena as one word also. That's totally fine. Yeah.
एवं देव चतुर्दशात्मक जगद्रूपेण जातः पुनः तस्योर्ध्वं खलु सत्यलोकनिलये जातोऽसि धाता स्वयं.
That Lakshmi Garu, that first line, Evam Deva, there is a after comma after a Deva, okay?
Okay. एवं देव चतुर्दशात्मक जगद्रूपेण जातः पुनः तस्योर्ध्वं खलु सत्यलोकनिलये जातोऽसि धाता स्वयम्.
एवं देव चतुर्दशात्मकजगद्रूपेण जातः पुनः तस्योध्वं खलु सत्यलोकनिलये जातोऽसि धाता स्वयम्. एवं देव चतुर्दशात्मकजगद्रूपेण जातः पुनः तस्योध्वं खलु सत्यलोकनिलये जातोऽसि धाता स्वयम्.
Yam Shamsanti, comma, Hiranya Garbham Akhila Trailokya Jivatmakam, comma, Yobhut Spita Rajo Vikara Vikasan Nana Sisriksha Rasaha. Entire line is together, but I think you can clearly break it. Spita Rajo Vikara Vikasan Nana Sisriksha Rasaha. Yam Shamsanti Hiranyagarbhamakila Trailokya Jivatmakam Yo Bhutspita Rajo Vikara Vikasan Nanasi Sriksharasah.
यं शंसन्ति हिरण्यगर्भमखिल त्रैलोक्यजीवात्मकं यो भूत्स्फीतरजो विकारविकसन् नानासि सृक्षासः.
Sriksharasah.
Oh, सृक्षारसः.
And similarly, third line, after Shamsanti, there is a comma, okay?
Okay. Yam shansanti hiranyagarbhamakila त्रैलोक्य जीवात्मकं यो भूतस्फीतरजो विकार विकसन् नानासि सृक्षा रसः.
यं शंसन्ति हिरण्यगर्भमखिलत्रैलोक्यजीवात्मकं यो भूस्फीतरजो विकारविकसन्नानासि सृक्षारसः. यं शंसन्ति हिरण्यगर्भमखिलत्रैलोक्यजीवात्मकं यो भूस्फीतरजो विकारविकसन्नानासि सृक्षारसः.
Answer to Sohyam Vishwa Visargadatta Hridayah Sampashyamana Swayam Bodham Khalvanavapya Vishwa Vishayam Chintakulastasstivan Tavatvam Jagadam Pathe Tapatapetyevam Hi Vaihayasim Vani Me Namashishravashruti Sukham Kurvam Stapah Preranam. So we're going to learn a lot about the timeline of what is a kalpa, what is a naimittika pralaya, what is a prakriti pralaya. All of that is going to come on in the 8th dashaka, but it's being referenced here. But I won't get into the details here. So think of it as there is one destruction, pralayam, which happens at the end of every day of Brahma. It's like you going to sleep, right? When you go to sleep, you wake up, things are kind of the same, but you have to start the work again. But if you're born again, then you have to start all the way from the beginning, right? So now we are in the scenario of if Brahma is coming, a new Brahma has come, and now he has to start all the way from the beginning. This Brahma has a desire to create, but has no idea how to do it. He doesn't have the knowledge embedded in him, right? So at this time, this Brahma is contemplating because he's looking around, and when he looks around, there's absolute nothingness. There is just a lot of these planets are there, all these things are there. And he has a desire, but he has no idea what to do. So now what Brahma does when he doesn't have the knowledge, he's just sitting and thinking about it, right? What do I do? He knows if he's there, then somehow somebody else must be there, right? So, when like we think, I wish to do, but I don't know what to do. But Brahma is also contemplating the exact same way. When he's contemplating, he then hears a noise, a sound, right? Which is, it says here, Vaihayasin. Vaihayasin, which means that it's very similar to Ashariri Vak, which means something I can hear, but it doesn't have a form. Sound cannot have a form, but it means that if it is coming from somebody, that means it has a form. It is coming from that person. So if I don't know who it is coming from, but I'm only hearing the sound, then that is Vaihayasin or Ashariri Vak. So that's what Brahma is hearing. He is hearing a thing which tells two letters. One of them is ta, other is pa. So he hears it two times. So it says tapa, tapa. Those are the two words he's hearing. So when he's hearing that, then Brahma, at least he has enough knowledge to understand what that means. So what he does is he closes his eyes or he begins to meditate, because that is the step number one. So anytime you don't know what to do, it says always you sit and just go into a penance or go into a state of meditation, because that's what Brahma is going to do. So he doesn't know what to do, but he hears this voice, so he then goes into a state of meditation right now. So soyam vishwa visarga datta hridayah, comma sampashyamanaha, put a is sampashyamanas swayam, comma bodham khalvana vapya vishwa vishayam, comma chintakulas tastivan. Sohyam vishwa visarga datta hridayah sampashyamana swayam bodham khalvana vapya vishwa vishayam chintakulas tastivan.
Soyam Vishwavisargadatta Hridaya Sampashyamana Swayam Bodham Kalvanavapya Vishwavishayam Chintakulastastivan.
That the first line hridayah, there's a visarga there.
Okay. Soyam Vishwavisargadatta Hridaya Sampashyamana Swayam Bodham Kalvana Vapya Vishwa Vishayam Chintakulastastivan.
सोऽयं विश्वविसर्गदत्तहृदयः सम्पश्यमानः स्वयं बोधं कल्वनवाप्य विश्वविषयं चिन्ताकुलस्तस्थिवान् सोऽयं विश्वविसर्गदत्तहृदयः सम्पश्यमानः स्वयं बोधं कल्वनवाप्य विश्वविषयं चिन्ताकुलस्तस्थिवान्
Tavat tvam jagatam pate, comma thapa tapetyevam hi vaihayasim, comma. The next word I'm going to break it into three, but you can break it or you can say it together. Vanim enam ashishravah. Okay, three words. Vanim enam ashishravah. Or you can say Vanim enam ashishravah together as well. But either way, that visarga that is there, ashishravah, you put a ish to join. Asishravash Shruti Sukham, comma Kurvams Tapaha is there, put a F to join, Tapah Preranam. So this, once you do it a few times, you'll start seeing the visarga, you'll know what to add, but I'm just saying it now so you can mark it and keep. So Tavatvam Jagatam Pathe Tapatapetyevam hi vaihayasim Vani me namashishravah Shruti Sukham Kurvam stapah preranam.
Tavatvam jagatam pate tapatape Tyevam hi vaihayasim Vanim yenam ashishrava Shruti Sukham Kurvam stapa Preranam.
That fourth line, that ashishravah, that ish sound has to come. Ashishravash Shruti Sukham.
Ashishrava.
Ashishravash Shruti Sukham.
Oh, okay. Ashishravash. Tavatvam jagatam pate tapatape Tyevam hi vaihayasim Vanim yenam ashishravash Shruti Sukham Kurvam stapa Preranam.
तावत्त्वं जगतां पते तपतपेत्येवं हि वैहायसीं वाणीमेनमशिश्रवः श्रुतिसुखां कुर्वंस्तपः प्रेरणाम् तावत्त्वं जगतां पते तपतपेत्येवं हि वैहायसीं वाणीमेनमशिश्रवः श्रुतिसुखां कुर्वंस्तपः प्रेरणाम्.
That's a 3. कोऽसौ मामवदत् पुमानिति जलापूर्णे जगन्मण्डले दिक्षु द्वीक्ष्य किमप्यनीक्षितवता वाक्यार्थमुत्पश्यता दिव्यं वर्षसहस्रमात तपसा तेन त्वमाराधितः तस्मै दर्शितवानसि स्वनिलयं वैकुण्ठमेकाद्भुतम्. I kind of jumped a little bit when I was explaining last stanza. But here, so when Brahma is hearing the word tapa, so let's stop there, right? So he's wondering, where am I hearing this sound from, right? So he, kaha aso puman, who is that person who is actually speaking to me? So he kind of looks all over. He doesn't see a single thing. All he sees are just these planetary systems with which have nothing in them, right? Think of it that way, very simply put, right? There is no life that is there. There's nothing that is actually happening in there as well. So with this absolute nothingness, when he looks across all the 14 worlds, he begins to wonder, who is this, like an intruder who's coming, and you're hearing this noise, but you have no idea where that is coming from. So finally, when you're still wondering who's saying this, then the knowledge kind of dawns to him that what he is being told is some supreme being who's above Brahma himself is instructing him to do meditation. So what Brahma does is he meditates for Divyam Varsha Sahasram, 1,000 divine years. And we'll see this context of years, what years mean in the next Dasakam. So he think of it as he meditates for a really, really, really long time. So when he's kind of meditating on it, thinking about nothing, right? When he's meditating, then finally the benefit of that is at the very end, what Brahma gets is Vaikuntha Ekadbhutam. You finally show him your abode, which is Vaikuntha, which we'll see in the next 3-4 stanzas. But that is what is happening. Brahma just meditates for a really long time, and then finally he's going to get the benefit of that. So, Kosau Mama Vadat Pumaniti, comma, Jalapurne Jagan Mandale, comma, Dikshu Longu, Dikshu Dvikshya, Kimapyanikshitavata. You cannot break that word. Kimapyanikshitavata, comma, Vakyartam Utpashyata. Kosau Mamavadat Pumaniti Jalapurne Jaganmandale Dikshu Dviksha Kimapyanikshitavata Vakyartam Utpashyata.
कोऽसौ माम् अवदत् कोऽसौ माम् अवदत् पुमानिति जलापूर्णे जगन्मण्डले दिक्षु दीक्ष्य किमप्यनीक्षितवता वाक्यार्थ उत्पक्ष्ययता.
No, Vakyartam Utpashyata.
Yeah, वाक्यार्थम उत्पश्यता, right?
Correct, yeah. And then the second word, Mam Avadat, you are right. It is two different words, Mam and Avadat, but you don't have to break it if you don't need to, you know.
So, Mam,
If you're able to say it together, you can just say it together. Kosau Mama Vadat.
Okay. Kosau Mama Vadat Mupaniti Jala.
Pumaniti.
Kosau Mama Vadat Pumaniti Jalapurne Jaganmandale Dikshu Dikshya Kimapyanikshitavata Vakyartha Utpashyata, right? Okay, let me tell it once. Kosau माम अवदत् पुमानिति जलापूर्णे जगन्मण्डले दिक्षु दीक्ष्य किमप्यनीक्षितवता वाक्यार्थ उत्पश्यता.
If you're saying Utpashyata, it has to be Vakyartham, im sound, okay?
Vakyartham, okay.
Yeah.
Kosau कोशौ मामवदत् पुमानिति जलापूर्णे जगन्मण्डले दिक्षुद्वीक्ष किमप्यनीक्षितवता वाक्यार्थमुत्पत्स्यत कोशौ मामवदत् पुमानिति जलापूर्णे जगन्मण्डले दिक्षुद्वीक्ष किमप्यनीक्षितवता वाक्यार्थमुत्पश्यत.
I mean, that's why I broke that as im, because that way you don't say vakyartham utpashyata. So if you are not able to say it together, then you just say vakyartham utpashyata.
वाक्यार्थमुत्पश्यत. वाक्यार्थमुत्पश्यत.
Divyam varsha sahasramata tapasa, comma, tena tvam aradhitaha, put a visarga comma there, aradhitaha. Next line, if you have is in the beginning of the line, that will go away. Tasmai darshita vanasi swanilayam, comma, vaikuntham ekadbhutam. Divyam varsha sahasramata tapasa tena tvam aradhitaha tasmai darshita vanasi swanilayam vaikuntham ekadbhutam.
दिव्यं वर्षसहस्रमात्त तपसा तेन त्वम् आराधितः तस्मै दर्शितवानसि स्वनिलयं वैकुण्ठमेकाद्भुतम्.
The third line, last word, tena tvam aradhitaha.
Okay. दिव्यं वर्षसहस्रमात्त तपसा तेन त्वम् आराधितः तस्मै दर्शितवानसि स्वनिलयं वैकुण्ठमेकाद्भुतम्.
दिव्यं वर्षसहस्रमात्ततपसा तेन त्वमाराधितः तस्मै दर्शितवानसि स्वनिलयं वैकुण्ठमेकाद्भुतम्. दिव्यं वर्षसहस्रमात्ततपसा तेन त्वमाराधितः तस्मै दर्शितवानसि स्वनिलयं वैकुण्ठमेकाद्भुतम्.
Stanza 4. Maya yatra kadapi no vikurute bhate jagadbhyo bahihi shoka krodha vimoha sadva samukhaha bhavastu duram gataha sandrananda jharicha yatra parama jyotif prakashatmake tatte dhama vibhavitam vijayate vaikuntha rupam vibho. So now Brahma, he is actually getting a darshan of Vaikuntham. So first we have to understand where is this Vaikuntham, or what is this Vaikuntham, right? So it says Jagadbhyo Bahihi, it's outside these 14 worlds. So like we discussed, from that Purusha, multiple of these andams are getting created. Each of those andams have 14 worlds which are there. Each of those worlds has a Brahma, right? So this Vaikuntham is beyond all of those Brahmandams. And so this one, it says, there are a couple of things, right? Like, to understand this, you can kind of go what it is not, right? That is one way to define something. So it says, see, if you are inside this Brahmandam, anybody who's inside this Brahmandam, including Brahma himself and everybody else who's going to come from Brahma, have a few things. One is they have a clearly defined start date and they have a clearly defined end date. You may not know what it is, but you have it. Brahma also has an end date, right? So they are all bound by time. They are all created at one point. They are all going to go away at some point. That is one definition. Number two, everybody born inside this Brahmandam is bound by karma, which means they have to do some action. And every action they do, there is going to be some karma which is going to accumulate. Brahma is a little bit of an exception, which we'll see at the end of this Dasakam. So he says, what is in Vaikuntham is everybody who is in Vaikuntham is not bound by this. They don't have a start date. They don't have an end date. They are not bound by any karma. Number two, because they don't have any karma, what is not there? Shokam, Shoka, Krodha, Vimoha, so all of these things. So Shokam is referring to sorrow. Krodha is referring to anger. Vimoha is referring to like delusion that we have. and Sadvam is fear, Sadvi, fear. So they are not bound, they do not have any of these characteristics. And that place is Sandra Nanda Jaricha. It's always a place of supreme bliss that is always there in the Vaikuntham. So that is that place called Vaikuntham. Now, where is this Vaikuntham? According to Bhagavatam, it is 200 million miles above Satyaloka, which is Satyaloka is the top of the Brahmanda. From there, 200 million miles above is this place called Vaikuntham. So that is what they're beginning to describe what it is. Next, they'll say who is in there. But that's the darshan that Brahma is getting sitting in Satyaloka, right? He's big. When I'm saying he's able to see it, he's able to see it through his mind. He's not opening his eyes and seeing it, right? But he's able to see it in his mind. He's getting that vision of what that Vaikuntham is. Maya, sorry.
Sorry to interrupt you. நீங்க வந்து சொன்னேன் multiple andams இருக்குன்னு சொல்றேன். Every andam has 14 worlds in சொன்னேன், and every andam has each andam has Brahma in சொன்னேன். Brahma is one. It's the same Brahma handling all the multiple andams, or
no? You think of it as delegations, right? So there's this one, like I said, there are three. You have to think of it as three types of Vishnus. One is that first Vishnu, who is the Purusha, who is going and creating all of these material worlds which are there, all the material worlds. And it says and there are innumerable material worlds, okay? Innumerable, countless material worlds. They're just constantly getting created, constantly getting destroyed. Some is getting created, some are getting destroyed. Non-stop process is happening. So that main Vishnu, which is there, right? So that Vishnu, from that Vishnu, all of the material worlds are only 1/4 the energy of that big Vishnu. The 3/4 of the energy of the Vishnu is nothingness. Okay? So you cannot think of full energy, think of it in that terms. You take 1/4 of it. That is all the possible material universes which are constantly getting created. And then there is 3/4, which is absolutely nothing, which is where the Purusha is. Right, which when we first started that conversation, Dasakam 5, the Purusha, that is the 3/4 spiritual energy where there's no material creation. Now, each of the universes which are actually getting formed in the 1/4 of that energy space, each of them is an andam. Each of them is think of it as a 14 worlds. Each of them has a Brahma. Brahma is a post. Brahma is not a name. Okay, it's a designation which is given, like a CEO or a president, right? So that Brahma is there. And then that Brahma then creates all the things which happen in the 14 worlds. This main Vishnu who is there enters into each of this. Like we said, he entered into the Andam to create all the 14 worlds, right? So that is called as the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, who enters into each of this Brahmandam, and he's lying at the Garbhodakashayi ocean at the bottom. So each of this universe or each of these 14 worlds has a Vishnu. That is called as the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, from whom Brahma comes, and then Brahma creates everything. That's all the 14 worlds which are there. Okay, so it's kind of think of it as like a delegation of authority, right? Very simple terms.
Thank you.
Okay.
So in that 14 words, no humans that time, no souls. Just
at this
everything
point,
is one.
in this 14, you have to think of it as which 14 world, right? Because like innumerable counts. So when we are describing it, we are talking about the one we live in. Okay. So in this universe that we live in, for which we have a Brahma, when that Brahma is now getting born, I use the term born very loosely here, when that Brahma is starting, at this point there's absolutely nothing. There's only Brahma, and there are 14 worlds
Only
at this point. Okay. Okay, I'll have to switch students because we are at time. So let me see who I had. So Shailaja, you can be a student, and who did I have? Sorry, the sheet on the. Okay, Lalita, you can be student. Rajagopal. Okay. Maya, Maya yatra kadapi no vikurute, comma, bhate jagadbhyo bahihi, comma, shoka krodha vimoha sadvasa mukhaha. So you put a visarga there because you're going to put a comma there. Sadvasa mukhaha, comma, bhavastu duram gataha. Mahayatra kadapi no vikurute bhate jagadbhyo bahihi शोकक्रोधविमोहसाद्वसमुखाः भावास्तु दूरं गताः.
माया यत्र गदाभिनो विकृते बाधे जगद्भ्यो बहिः शोकक्रोधविमोहसाद्वसमुखाः भावास्तु दूरं गताः. माया यत्र गदाभिनो विकुरुते बाधे जगद्भ्यो बहिः शोकक्रोधविमोहसाद्वसमुखाः भावास्तु दूरं गताः.
Shailaja, mute little.
माया यत्र कदापि नो विकुरुते बाते जगद्भ्यो बहिः विमोहसाद्वसमुखाः भावास्तु दूरं गताः. माया यत्र कदापि नो विकुरुते बाधे जगद्भ्यो बहिः शोकक्रोधविमोहसाद्वसमुखाः भावास्तु दूरं गताः.
Answer fine. Sorry. Sandrananda Jharicha, comma, Yatra Parama Jyotihi, you can put a F to join, Jyotif Prakashatmake, comma, Tatte Dhama Vibhavitam Vijayate, comma, Vaikuntha Rupam Vibho. Sandrananda Jharicha Yatra Parama Jyotif Prakashatmake Tatte Dhama Vibhavitam Vijayate Vaikuntha Rupam Vibho.
सान्द्रानन्दजरी च यत्र परम ज्योति प्रकाशात्मके तत्ते धाम विभावितं विजयते वैकुण्ठरूपं विभो.
Lalita, and the third line after cha, Sandrananda Jari cha, there is a comma, okay?
Okay, sorry. सान्द्रानन्दजरी च यत्र परम ज्योतिः प्रकाशात्मके तत्ते धाम विभावितं विजयते वैकुण्ठरूपं विभो.
सान्द्रानन्दजरी च यत्र परमज्योतिप्रकाशात्मके तत्ते धाम विभावितं विजयते वैकुण्ठरूपं विभो. सान्द्रानन्दजरी च यत्र परमज्योतिप्रकाशात्मके तत्ते धाम विभावितं विजयते वैकुण्ठरूपं विभो.
Sense of it. Yasmin nama chaturbhujaha Harimani-shyamavadhadatvisho Nana bhushana ratnadipita disho Rajat vimanalayaha Bhakti prapta tata vidhonna tapadhaha Divyanti divyajanaha Tatte dhama nirasta sarva shamalam Vaikuntha rupam jayet. So now Brahma, in his mind, he's zooming in, right? So he's seeing this Vaikuntham. So next he sees what is inside this Vaikuntham or who is inside this Vaikuntham. Now, this Vaikuntham that we are talking about, you cannot keep going back and forth because think of it as that way, right? You are already in one Brahmandam that has a Brahma, multiple universes are there. This is all beyond all of that. So you can't just keep going and coming to this Vaikuntham. These restrictions are there. So what happens is, in each of this Brahmanda, like if you've gone to Tirupati, there's a male Tirupati and there's a Kir Tirupati, bottom Tirupati, right? If you cannot go to the top, at least go to the bottom Tirupati. Or a lot of people create a new England because you cannot go to the main England. Similarly, in each of this Brahmandam, also there is a mini Vaikuntham. Okay, so later on, when we see Indra and Brahma and everybody going to Vaikuntham and then seeing Narayana there, they are not going to this Vaikuntham that we are seeing. They're going to go to a different Vaikuntham, which is inside each Brahmanda, to serve or to function or protect that Brahmanda. So think of it as that way. So now what Brahma is seeing is a Vaikuntham, which is beyond all of this, right? So here, he says you can't just keep going in and out and all of that stuff. Nobody can access it. Only at the end of the final, Pralayam, when everything is done and everything gets merged into it. Nothing else. Nobody can keep moving in and out. So, but the residents of that Vaikuntham, as it describes here, they are no different than, the Narayana himself, like, it says they all have the same looks. They are all in the same, dark bluish gray color. And, they all have, very beautiful features. They don't have any concept of age because there's no age there. So you can, think of them as youth or however you want. There's no concept of age. And they all have Chaturbhujam. They all have Chaturbhujam. And they all look exactly the same. The only difference being the main Narayana has Srivatsam mark because Mahalakshmi resides in the Srivatsam. Nobody else has Srivatsam, but all the other residents, which are a few of them, which we'll see, they all look exactly the same. And that is the Vaikuntham which Brahma is seeing. And he says the only way you can get there, the people who are there are always in a state of devotion. They don't have anything else. There is no desire, there is nothing. Because like we said, Shoka, Krodha, Vimoha, Sadha, Samukaha. None of that exists there. They're always in a state of devotion. So when we come later on and we see Jaya, Vijaya and all of that to get angry, it is not in this Vaikuntham because it just does not exist in that Vaikuntham, right? So that is what Brahma is seeing. He's zooming in and he's seeing that everybody looks just like you. The Krishna, there's no difference between anybody there. And, it's a state of always continuous happiness that he sees there. So, Yasmin Nama Chaturbhujaha, you can put a Visarga and comma there, Chaturbhujaha, Hari Mani Shyamavadadat Visho, you cannot break that word, Shyamavadadat Visho, comma, Nana Bhushana Ratna Deepita Disho, comma, Rajat Vimanalayaha. Yasmin Nama Chaturbhujaha, Harimani Shyamavadadat Visho, Nana Bhushana Ratna Deepita Disho, Rajat Vimanalayaha.
I have a question. Is it that there's a comma after the show?
Yeah, comma after
Okay.
the show, yes.
I missed it. Thank you.
यस्मिन्नाम चतुर्भुजाः हरिमणि श्यामावदादद्विषो नानाभूषणरत्नदीपितदिशो राजद्विमानालयाः यस्मिन्नाम चतुर्भुजाः हरिमणि श्यामावदादद्विषो नानाभूषणरत्नदीपितदिशो राजद्विमानालयाः
यस्मिन्नाम चतुर्भुजाः हरिमणिश्यामावदत्ताद्विषो नानाभूषणरत्नदीपितदिशो राजद्विमानालयाः.
Elajan, the first line, last word, Harimani Shyamavadatat Visho.
श्यामावदादद्विषो.
Yeah, correct.
यस्मिन्नाम चतुर्भुजाः हरिमणिश्यामावदत्ताद्विषो.
Shyamavadatat.
Okay. श्यामावदातद्विषो नानाभूषणरत्नदीपितदिशो राजद्विमानालयाः यस्मिन्नाम चतुर्भुजाः हरिमणि श्यामावदातद्विषो नानाभूषणरत्नदीपितदिशो राजद्विमानालयाः.
Bhakti Prapta Tatha Vidhonnata Padaha. Again, add a Visarga there. Vidhonnata Padaha, comma. Divyanti Divya Janaha. Again, add a Visarga and comma there. Janaha. Next line, the is goes away. Tate Dhama Nirasta Sarva Shamalam, comma. Vaikuntha Rupam Jayet. So victory to hail to Vaikuntham. Bhakti Prapta Tata Vidhonnata Padhaha Divyanti Divya Janaha Tate Dhama Nirasta Sarva Shamalam Vaikuntha Rupam Jayet.
भक्ति प्राप्त तथा विदो नतपदाः दिव्यन्ति दिव्या जनाः तत्ते धाम निरस्त सर्वशमलं वैकुण्ठरूपं जयेत् भक्ति प्राप्त तदा विदो नतपदाः दिव्यन्ति दिव्या जनाः तत्ते धाम निरस्त सर्वशमलं वैकुण्ठरूपं जयेत्.
Bhakti prapta tada vidonnatapadaah divyanti divyajanaah tatte damanirasta sarvashamalam vaikuntarupam jayet.
The third line that Divyan is Divyanti, long E, okay?
Bhakti prapta tada vidonnatapadaah divyanti divyajanaah tatte damanirasta sarvashamalam vaikuntarupam jayet.
That's a 6. Nanha divya vadhu janairabhivrita vidyullata tulyaya vishvonmadana hridya gatralataya vidyotita shantara त्वत्पादाम्बुज सौरभैक कुतुकात् लक्ष्मी स्वयं लक्ष्यते यस्मिन् विस्मयनीय दिव्यभिभवं तत्ते पदं देहि मे. So stanzas 6, 7, 8, which is going to follow, are like kind of like prayers which you can chant every day. Okay, this is one of those things. You'll always have these standalone stanzas which will come, which is like which is not connected, right? Which is independent, which you can pray every day that you want. So here, Bhadrapad is saying that, Tatte Padam Dehime, that Vaikuntham which Brahma is seeing, he says, please give it to me. Which means when you are chanting, you're requesting. So this is only if you want to go to Vaikuntham, right? He says, please give me that Vaikuntham. He says, where, that, like we said, the people who are there are always in a loving service, including Mahalakshmi, who's always engaged in, and we saw in Dasakam 2, he says, Mahalakshmi always resides with you. There's no doubt about it. So she's always in your service, not only because of your form, but she's just so devoted there. So she's your constant companion who's always talking about you, thinking about you, right? And this place of Vaikuntham, which is talking, is such that you will never get bored. That's the other thing. Sometimes you may go to a place 10 times, you tend to get bored. Here, see the people, the beings who are there, or everybody who's there, it's a state because it's constant bliss. You never get bored of it. So you're always in that same elevated state all there. So Bhadrapad requests that, please give us that abode of that which Brahma is seeing. I also would like to be there. So Nana Divya Vadhu Janaira Bhivrita, comma, Vidyul Lata Tulyaya, comma, Vishvonmadana Hridya Gatra Lataya, comma, Vidyotita Shantara. Nana Divya Vadhu Janairabhivrita Vidyullata Tulyaya Vishvonmadana Hridya Gatra Lataya Vidyotita Shantara.
Nana divya vadu janaira vivrata vidyullata tulyaya vishwonmadana krityaka tralayada vidyodita shantara.
Lalita, on the second line, Lataya, I think you switched it. Layata, you said it's Lataya.
Sorry, Lataya. Okay.
Rajesh, sorry to interrupt. In the first line, Nana Divya Vadu Janaira Bivritava illa Janaira Bivritava.
It's Janair Abhivrita. But you can say it together as well.
Thank you.
Nana divya vadu janaira bivruta vidyullata tulyaya vishwonmadana vidyakatra lataya vidyodita shantara.
The first line, the Janaira Bhivrita, after that there is a comma, okay?
Okay, sorry.
Nana divya vadu janaira bivrata vidyullata tulyaya vishvonmadana hridya gatra lataya vidyotita shantara. Nana divya vadu janaira bivrata vidyullata tulyaya vishvonmadana hridya gatra lataya vidyotita shantara.
Twat Padambhuja Saurabhaika Kutukat. You might have a ill in Sanskrit, I don't know, L in English if you're following that. But because we're going to pause there, that becomes a it. Kutukat, first ta, comma. Lakshmihi, put a is. Lakshmis Swayam Lakshyate, comma. Yasmin Vismayaniya Divya Vibhavam, Tatte Padam Dehi Me. त्वत्पादाम्बुजसौरभैककुतुकात् लक्ष्मी स्वयं लक्ष्यते यस्मिन् विस्मयनीय दिव्यविभवं तत्ते पदं देहि मे.
Sorry to interrupt, Rajesh. The fourth line, Vibhavam, Vibhavam.
Vibhavam.
Vibhavam. Okay, I have
You have
Vibhavam.
Vibhavam, then just change it to Vibhavam. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Does the L and Lakshmi go away when we said T? Or is it La? Lakshmi or Lakshmi?
La, first La, Lakshmi,
La.
not
There's
the
no-
La.
There's
Not the
no
La.
what. No, there's no Vattu. There's a Vattu behind La, right? La. It said La and then La. There's a.
Yeah. So the first ill you might have. Which are you following Telugu, Nalini?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know how it is in Telugu, but if you look at Sanskrit, it'll have a ill and it'll have a la. Two letters are there. So the ill that is coming first becomes a it because we are stopping there. Okay, so that because it actually becomes a ill when you don't stop. So that becomes a it. So kutukat, comma.
And then just Lakshmi, plain Lakshmi.
Plain Lakshmi, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So okay.
Yeah, so ala, what is it gone?
Yeah, Vattu is gone.
त्वत्पादाम्बुजसौरभैक कुतुकात् लक्ष्मी स्वयं लक्ष्यते यस्मिन् विस्मयनीय दिव्यविभवां तत्ते पदं देहि मे.
The Vibhavam. If you have Vibhavam, just change it to Vibhavam. The fourth line.
त्वत्पादाम्बुजसौरभैककुतुकात् लक्ष्मी स्वयं लक्ष्यते यस्मिन् विस्मयनीय दिव्यविभवं तत्ते पदं देहि मे.
त्वत्पादाम्बुजसौरभैककुतुकात् लक्ष्मी स्वयं लक्ष्यते यस्मिन् विस्मयनीय दिव्यविभवं तत्ते पदं देहि मे. त्वत्पादाम्बुजसौरभैककुतुकात् लक्ष्मी स्वयं लक्ष्यते यस्मिन् विस्मयनीय दिव्यविभवं तत्ते पदं देहि मे.
Answer 7. तत्रैवं प्रतिदर्शिते निजपथे रत्नासनाध्यासितं भास्वत्कोटिलसत्किरीटकटकाद्याकल्पदी प्राकृति श्रीवत्साङ्कितमातकौस्तुभमनिच्छायारुणं कारणं विश्वेषां तव रूपमैक्षत विधिः तत्ते विभो भातु मे. So when Brahma zoomed in and he saw the beings in Vaikuntham. First he saw Vaikuntham, then he saw the beings in Vaikuntham. Next, Brahma is seeing the Supreme Lord Narayana in Vaikuntham. So that's why Bhattaripad is now requesting, which means, like I said, there's a prayer here as well. He's saying, Tatte Vibho Bhatume. So that you, which Brahma saw, please show that to me also. Now, of course, you have to be in such an elevated spiritual position to be able to see the original form of the Lord, right? Who was sitting in Vaikuntham. Because Brahma had to do 1,000 Sahasra Divya tapas. He has to do so much tapas to get that form. But at least you can request. So that's what the prayer here is that form which Brahma saw, which is, Bhaswat Koti Lasat Kirita, which is like thousands and thousands of sun, the brightness which is there in thousands of sun. That is how that shining, the form of the Lord was so bright, right? That it was like equal to thousands and thousands of suns. And then, of course, your chest bore the Srivatsa Ankitam, your chest bore the Srivatsa mark. And then you had the Kaustubha Mani, which kind of creates that luster that is there. So it just describes the form of the Lord like we saw in Dasakam 2, right? So that form of the Lord which Brahma is seeing, please give me also a chance to see that form of yours. So Tatraivam Prati Darshite Nijapade, comma, Ratna Sanadhyasitam, cannot break that, comma, Bhaswat Koti Lasat Kirita Katakadyakalpa. You can either say Katakadyakalpa, the Dya sound, or if you want to break it, is Katakadyakalpa, it and a Ya, Katakadyakalpa, Di Prakriti. And the entire line is together, there's no pause. Tatraivam Pratidarshite Nijapade Ratnasanadhyasitam Bhaswat Kotilasat Kireetakatakadyākalpadi Prakriti.
तत्रैवं प्रतिदर्शिते निजपते रत्नासनाध्यासितं भास्वत्कोटिलसत्किरीटकटगाध्याकल्पदी प्राकृति
That Nijapade upon comma, first line.
Sorry, Rajesh, one question. The last word is Deeptakritiya or Deeprakriti?
Deeprakriti.
Oh, Deeprakriti. Okay. I have Deeptakriti. Okay. Thank you.
तत्रैवं प्रतिदर्शिते निजपते रत्नासनाध्यासितं भास्वत्कोटिलसत्किरीटकटगाध्याकल्पदी प्राकृति
तत्रैवं प्रतिदर्शिते निजपदे रत्नासनाद्यासितं भास्वत्कोटिलसत्किरीटकटका व्याकल्पदीप्रकृति दीप्राकृति तत्रैवं प्रतिदर्शिते निजपदे रत्नासनाद्यासितं भास्वत्कोटिलसत्किरीटकटकाद्याकल्प दीप्राकृति.
And the T, both Lalita, you and Shailaja, that Prakriti, T is short E, okay, with ends there. So be careful not to stretch it as Prakriti. It's Prakriti.
Okay. Prakriti.
Rajesh, ஒரு quick question. In the last line, Kataka Dhyava illa Katakad Yakalpa.
Yeah, actually, I think it is. Sorry, you cannot. I don't think you can break it. I was wrong. I think it's Kataka Dhyakalpa. Better to say it together as one word. Yeah. Shivat Sankitam Ata Kaustubha Manich Chayarunam Karanam. Again, no pause there. Comma at the very end. Karanam. Vishvesham Tava Rupa Maikshata Vidihi. So that is there. You remove it, put Visarga, comma, Vidihi. Tate Vibho Bhatume. Srivatsankitamata Kaustubhamani Chayarunam Karanam Vishvesham Tava Rupa Maikshata Vidihi. Tate Vibho Bhatume.
श्रीवत्साङ्गिदम् आतगौस्तुभमनिच्छायारुणं कारणं विश्वेषां तव रूपमैक्षदविधिः तत्ते विभो भातु मे श्रीवत्साङ्गिदम् आतगौस्तुभमनिच्छायारुणं कारणं विश्वेषां तव रूपमैक्षदविधिः तत्ते विभो भातु मे
श्रीवत्साङ्कितमातकौस्तुभमनिच्छायारुणं कारणं विश्वेषां तव रूपमैक्षतविधिः तत्ते विभो भातु मे श्रीवत्साङ्कितमातकौस्तुभमनिच्छायारुणं कारणं विश्वेषां तव रूपमैक्षतविधिः तत्ते विभो भातु मे.
Say, Kalham Bodhakalaya Komalaruchi Chakrena Chakram Disham Avranvanam Udaramanda Hasita Syandha Prasannanam Rajat Kambugadari Pankajadhara Srimad Bhuja Mandalam Srashtustustikaram Vapustava Vibho Madroga Mudvasahet. Like I said, the 6, 7, and 8 you can chant every time. If you're not able to chant 6, 7, 8, at least chant 8 every day. Kind of make it part of your prayers. Because here, what Bhatripad is describing here is that form of you, right, where he goes on, like, some of these words becomes familiar. If you read Dasakam 2, and then you read this stanza, you'll see a lot of the words repeat because he's describing the form of the Lord, right? And some of these words will continue to repeat as we go later on also, which is, Kalam Bhoda, which is like the dark rain-bearing clouds. Kalaya Komala is like we said, the blue lily. This will also come in the 100th Dashakam when we say Agre Pashyami Tejo, Nibida Tara Kalaya Komala. Same thing will come. So it's the blue lily or the dark rain-bearing clouds, right? You have that halo effect when you are looking at the form of the Lord. And then, of course, very smiling face. Udara manda hasita, very smiling face, which gives happiness to everybody. And of course, he has a chatur bhujam, which has got kambu, which is the conch. So if you look at the third line, Rajat kambu, which is the conch, gada, which is the mace, ari, which is the discus, and pankajam, which is a lotus. So he's having all of these things in his four hands. So he kind of describes the entire form of the Lord and says, this form of the Lord, which Brahma saw in Vaikuntham, may that mad rogam udvasayet, may that eliminate all the diseases that I have. Right? So you kind of, if you do this prayer every day, you're kind of saying that, that form of Lord in Vaikuntham, which Brahma saw, that Narayana, you directly come and eliminate all the diseases that I am actually having. Right? So it's a very nice stanza and a very nice prayer to do on a daily basis. So Kalambhoda Kalaya Komala Ruchi Chakrena Chakram Disham, put a im at the end of that line, comma, Disham. Next line, the ma becomes a. Avrunvanam udara manda hasita syanda prasannananam. It's easily breakable. So Lalita and Shaila, just do one time. I want to try to finish this today. Kalambhoda kalaya komhala ruchi chakrena chakram disham avrunvanam udara manda hasita syanda prasannananam.
कालाम्बोदकलाय कोमलरुचि चक्रेण चक्रं दिशाम् आवृण्वानम् उदारमन्द असिदस्यन्द प्रसन्नाननम्
कालाम्बोदकलाय कोमलरुचि चक्रेण चक्रं दिशाम् आवृण्वानमुदारमन्दहसितस्यन्द प्रसन्नाननम्.
Shall I the second line, first word, Abrin, br sound, okay, Abrin. Rajat Kambhu Gadari Pankaja Dhara Srimat Bhujamandalam, comma, Srashtus Tushtikaram Vapus Tava Vibho, comma, Madrogam. You can either say Madrogam as one word or Madrogam, whichever you find easier. Madrogam Udvasayet. Rajat Kambhu Gadari Pankajadhara Srimad Bhujamandalam Srashtus Tuštikaram Vapustava Vibho Madrogam Udvasayet.
राजकम्बुगदारि पङ्कजधर श्रीमद्भुजामण्डलम् स्रष्टुदुष्टिकरं वपुस्तव विभो मद्रोगम् उद्वासयेत्.
राजत्कम्बुगदारि पङ्कजधर श्रीमद्भुजामण्डलम् स्रष्टुष्टिकरं वपुस्तव विभो मद्रोगमुद्वासयेत्.
That's a nine. Drishtva Sambhrita Sambramah Kamalabhuh Tvatpada Patho Ruhe Harsha Besha Vasham Vado Nipatitah Pritya Kritarti Bhavan Janasyeva Manishitam Mama Vibho Jnanam Tada Padaya Dvaita Bhavat Swarupa Parametyachashtatam Tvam Bhaje. So Brahma is now imagine seeing that form of the Lord. Right? So Brahma is just overwhelmed, right? He's just ecstatic with joy looking at that form of the Lord. And suddenly he feels he has a sense of fulfillment. He doesn't want to do anything more. That is the form that Brahma is right now. So he then, of course, prostrates namaskarams through his mind because he's seeing all this in his mind. And then Brahma is telling the Lord that I have this intention, I have this desire to be able to want to go create. But he says, I'm lacking the necessary knowledge. I've lost all the knowledge which is required for me to go create. And Brahma asks something very important. He says, Dvaita Advaita. He says, I want to be able to understand the Dvaitam, which is the duality. Because if I have to create somebody who's different, then I have to realize that that person is different from the Brahman itself. In the sense, in terms of the form, in terms of the person being which is there. So I have to understand this concept of duality. At the same time, I should not forget the concept of Advaitam, which is knowing that the Brahman is there in everybody else as well. right? Because if Brahma thinks that everybody is the same as Brahman, then he cannot create individual beings. So he says, I have to remember that concept, which is example. Like you come back to the clay example, you have the clay. If you want to know that the individual beings you're creating are unique beings, but not to forget that all of them came from the clay. And at the end of the day, they are all clay, right? So that is what Brahma is saying. Give me both the Dvaitam knowledge and give me both the Advaitam knowledge so I can go about the process of creation. So Drishtva Sambhrita Sambramaha is there, put a ih sound. Sambramah Kamalabhuhu. Remove that is, put a visarga and comma. Tvat Pada Pathoruhe, comma. Harshavesha Pashamvado Nipatitaha, comma. Pritya Kritarthi Bhavan. Drishtva Sambhrita Sambramah Kamalabhuhu Tvatpada Pathoruhe Harshavesha Pashamvado Nipatitaha Pritya Kritarthi Bhavan.
दृष्ट्वा सम्भृतसम्भ्रमः कमलभूः त्वत्पादपादोरुहे हर्षावेशवशन् बदो निपतितः प्रीत्या कृतार्थी भवन्
दृष्ट्वा सम्भृतसम्भ्रमः कमलभूः त्वत्पादपातोरुहे हर्षावेशवशन्वदो निपतितः प्रीत्या कृतार्थी भवन्
जानास्येव मनीषितं मम विभो, कॉमा, ज्ञानं तदापादय, कॉमा, द्वैताद्वैत भवत् स्वरूप param ityachashta. You can either say param ityachashta or paramityachashta together. Paramityachashta tam tvam bhaje. So no pause in the fourth line. Janhasyeva manishitam mama vibho jnanam tadapadaya dvaita dvaita bhavat swarupa paramityachashta tam tvam bhaje.
जानासेव मनीषितं मम विभो ज्ञानं तदापादय द्वैताद्वैतभव स्वरूप परमित्याचष्ट तं त्वां भजे
जानास्येव मनीषितं मम विभो ज्ञानं तदापादय द्वैताद्वैतभवत्स्वरूपपर मिथ्याचष्ट तं त्वं भजे.
Tam tvam bhaje.
तं त्वां भजे.
Quickly run through 10. I'll tell the meaning in the next class. Atambre charane vinamra mata tam, comma, hastena haste sprishanne, comma, bodhaste bhavita, comma, na sarga vidibhir bandhopi sanjayate. Atambre charane vinamra mata tam, hastena haste sprishanne, bodhaste bhavita न सर्ग विधिभिर्बन्धोऽपि सञ्जायते.
आताम्रे चरणे विनम्रमत तं हस्तेन हस्ते स्पृशन् बोधास्ते भविता न सर्गविधिभिर्बन्धोऽपि सञ्जायते.
आताम्रे चरणे विनम्रमत तं हस्तेन हस्ते स्पृशन् बोधस्ते भविता न सर्गविधिभिर्बन्धोऽपि सञ्जायते.
A second line after bhavita there is a comma, okay? Bodhaste bhavita, comma. Itya bhashya giram pratoshya nitaram, comma. Tach chitta gudaha, put is gudas swayam, comma. Srishtau tam Samudairayaha, again put the is to join, Samudairayas sa Bhagavan. You'll have a double na and a u there, Sanskrit. Bhagavan, you just first put the in, Bhagavan, comma. Next word will start with the u. Ullasa yollaghatam. Itya bhashya giram pratoshya nitaram तच्चित्तगूढस्वयं सृष्टौ तं समुदैरयः स भगवन् उल्लासयोल्लाघताम्. லலிதா மியூட்ல இருக்கேன்.
Sorry. इत्याभाष्य गिरं प्रदोष नितरां तच्चित्तगूढस्वयं सृष्टौ तं समुदरयः स भगवन् उल्लासयोल्लागताम्.
On the fourth line, samudairayas.
Okay. सृष्टौ तं समुदैरयः स भगवन् उल्लासयोल्लागताम्.
इत्याभाष्य गिरं प्रतोष्य नितरां तच्चित्तगूढा स्वयं सृष्टौ तं
Samudairayas.
समुदैरः स भगवन् उल्लासयोल्लागताम्.
Shall I try? Samudairayas sa Bhagavan.
समुदैरयः स भगवन् उल्लासयोल्लागताम्.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Sorry, we had to rush towards the end. सान्ध्वानन्दावबोधात्मकमनुपमितं कालदेशावधिभ्यां निर्मुक्तं नित्यमुक्तं निगमशतसहस्रेण निर्भास्यमानम् अस्पष्टं दृष्टमात्रे पुनरुरुपुरुषार्थात्मकं ब्रह्मतत्त्वं तत्तावद्भाति साक्षात् गुरुपवनपुरे हन्त भाग्यं जनानां कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. Thank you, everyone. So we went a few minutes over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you.